Of course, as soon as I hit the recording, I lost my notes. Today is day 3 in Taming the Triggers, our 3-day training, all about addressing and blowing up the experiences that we have that are so deeply triggering and so challenging for us at work. If you recall, if we want to do a little review, day 1 was all about public speaking and how we manage ourselves with that high intensity experience of having all eyes on us. Day 2 is about people pleasing and perfectionism. And today we're delving into imposter syndrome. I'm going to give you over a dozen tips and techniques and surprising ways that you can blow up imposter syndrome. But first, I want to start off with defining it so we understand what it is. You might be well acquainted with the term imposter syndrome, but let's do a little bit of a dive. It is that sense that even as you get raises or promotions or accolades or positive attention, you feel like you're not deserving. And more than that, you worry that once people figure out that you're not deserving, that they'll find you out and you won't be living up to their expectations and you'll be discovered like a fraud or a fake. And it is so unsettling. It is such an awful feeling. Imposter syndrome is like a sister to your negative inner critic and self-doubt, but it is deeper than that because it has to do with some deeply held beliefs about our worthiness and our belonging in a way that is difficult to shake. But I've developed lots of easy ways that we can reframe or exercises that we can practice for you to help get a relieving experience today. That's what I'm all about, is tactical tips, things that you can put into place so that you can start to see and feel improvement immediately. So you ready? So where the heck did this thing come from? Why do we have imposter syndrome? It's easy to understand when you realize how we were raised. When you were too young to think for yourself and have your own belief system, we adopted lessons and influences from people of authority around us. And they wanted us to stay safe and avoid pain. So we were constantly told yes and no. We were redirected to things that were supposed to be good for us, and we learned how to be in people's good favor, how to get them to smile back at us, how for us our performance would win over acceptance and validation. And we started to adopt behaviors and beliefs that led us to believe that if we didn't do good, we weren't good. And this imposter syndrome is part of that, that these negative voices that we've developed that tell us like, don't risk too much, or who do you think you are? Or look around, everyone else is better than you, or you're not up to their level. Everyone else is better than you. Those are the types of negative narratives that our brain has come up out of a desire to protect ourselves. They're actually a defense mechanism gone haywire. So basically, our brain is trying to keep us safe and keep us steady and warn us from risk, even emotional risk, even emotional failure, even rejection, not just getting burned by the hot stove and us learning how to recoil and never touch a hot stove again, but learning that if we make an overture and someone rejects us and we feel that pain and we recoil, we're never going to do that again. So we develop this self-defense mechanism that is operating on overdrive to protect us even from going big in our life or from emotional experiences that don't kill us, but feels like it's death defying. Does this resonate for you? If you're joining with me live, give me like a comment or give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're tracking. What I hope is for you to see is that this is like nothing's wrong with you and you're not actually unique in experiencing this. That so many women, especially that I train, feel like it's this secret that they harbor that nobody else knows, that even though everybody thinks they look so confident and so competent, deep inside they feel like a fraud. And it's almost even more triggering to feel that this dissonance between everybody thinks I've got it all going on, everybody thinks that I'm so powerful and important and self-assured, and really I'm not. And that even creates tension. So I want to give you some thoughts to think of, and then I'm going to start diving into the 12 tips. This might even be a bonus tip right here. I want you to consider this concept. Are you ready? We know ourselves from the inside, right? We know our thoughts, our feelings, our physical experience. We are always living inside our own head, our own perceptions, our own drama, our own historical narrative. This is how we know ourselves from the inside. Yet, we know everybody else in the world, even the people that are closest to us, even our children or our partners or our parents. We know them from their outside. We can't know their inside. So we may suffer self-doubt that no one else can see, right? Because that's your personal experience. But consider this. You may assume that other successful people that are in your life have no self-doubt because you cannot see their inside. So I want to help you see that by making a leap of considering that other people's minds work just like ours do, and that the majority of what we feel is actually shared by others, it's just not spoken about, that you can find some relief in knowing that you're not alone. I can tell you you're not alone, and that it's only because people don't really speak about the ways in which they're insecure because they feel like that will reveal even more insecurity. So I love this environment here because it's private in a way. Like I'm broadcasting and you can see me, but no one else can see you receiving this information. You can take this on board in a way that maybe you can't in any other environment. You can't share with your boss, perhaps, I feel insecure, or even your family of origin or your spouse or your best friend, because sometimes those areas, those individuals will just fan the flames of how you could be better or how you're not worse. And that's not really helpful. So my goal is to give you some helpful tips that you can implement so that you can start feeling more confident today. All right, gals, here we go. We're going to dive in. Okay, so some tactics. I'm going to start with something that I've talked about a lot before if you've joined previous trainings of mine. I sometimes talk about this negative inner critic almost as a subset of ourselves. We call it the saboteur, like she who sabotages us, right? She who is afraid of embarrassment. She is who is afraid of failure and keeps us from harm. She is within you and she's here for only one reason. Your inner sabotager, your inner negative critic, your inner negative Nancy is here for only one job, and it's to keep you safe. But this tactic that I like to share with you is to actually personify her, to see her not as you, the whole glorious, beautiful, holistic you, but just a tiny small subset of you. And even to help you create this cognitive dissonance to separate yourself from this negative saboteur, I like you to actually name her. Create like a little alter persona, a little alter ego, a little somebody that you can see. And using humor actually helps a great deal too. So my first tactic for you is what I like to call name it to tame it. That if you can create this little identity and see this other version of you and name it, you can now start to govern over it. You can start to create some agency above it. And I'm speaking in terms too of like being superior to it. Like think of it as a small little creature. Sometimes when I'm coaching gals, they'll conjure up actual an image. And I want to challenge you to do that today. Like you can think about it like a little slimy devil or a little devil that sits on your shoulder, and name it. Like I've heard gals call it a weenie genie or a negative Nancy or pessimistic Polly or my inner beater or my inner mean girl or my evil twin. And if you can see her for what she really is, just a small little fearful part of you, tiny, weak, pathetic, sweet, but not very strong, then you have agency over it to be like, oh, there, sweetie, I see you. I see you speaking to me right now in this moment. I hear you trying to beat me down because you're scared, and not today. You can sit down and not today, right? So when you speak to her with loving, pathetic humor, it's shown that actually that energy of feeling like like you're loving to it, but also diminishing it at the same time is shown to help us govern ourselves in a stronger, more confident way. It's a little bit like role playing, and maybe it sounds crazy, like I'm counseling you to start birthing alternate personalities and become some crazy schizophrenic. But listen, it's already crazy enough that we let that negative voice run on overdrive and autopilot all the time. This is far less crazy than that. So what you want to do is first you want to name her and personify her, and then you want to speak down to her. You want to see her as you, but just a small, silly part of you. It's not the whole you. You want to separate your big self from her and downplay her. You want to notice when she's awake and activated and say, oh, there you are. I see you, you little scaredy cat. I see you, not today. Thank you, but no thanks. And this actually helps for you to just catch it and release, catch and release. So those are first two tactics right off the bat that have to do with the inner saboteur. Name it and speak to her. Then we've got some other things that we can do. I sometimes give my clients this task to make like a huge poster, maybe that they put on the back of their office door, that when their door is closed, they can see it, but when the door is open, nobody else can. And what we want to do here is actually create a piece of evidence that disproves any self-belief that you have that tells you you're not good enough. We want a list of all of your life's accomplishments, all of the ways in which you have elevated yourself, all of your distinctions, all of your merits, all of your studies, your degrees, your certifications, all of your promotions. We want to witness all of your life experience so that when you look at it, you think, gosh darn it, I really am going strong. I really do have something to offer. Sometimes it just takes us reminding ourselves of our positive accomplishments to remember that we're not little and small. We're not the ingenue. We're not silly and worthless or needing to be intimidated of other people. And I like to say on this sheet, we're not just going for our accolades and our distinctions and our merits in a work format. You can also put things on there that are personal accomplishments. Have you been a friend? Have you been a best friend? Have you been a maid of honor? Have you shown up for somebody? Have you traveled? Can you claim that as a victory? Have you taken care of babies or fur babies? Have you taken care of aging parents? Have you lived through traumatic events? Things like this you can claim as victories for yourself and see, I am actually a whole human, not just somebody who's missing something. All right, I hope you like that. That helps you, revisit and balance the scales on how very impressive you are when you show it to yourself. The fourth tip I have for you is for you to know that famous people suffer imposter syndrome too. Some of the most lofty names in history that maybe you admire or think, of course, they were supremely confident, were not. One that I love to quote is Dear Maya Angelou, the amazing poet laureate, playwright, novelist, that was so prolific in her career and she became such a thought leader in so many ways. Even she claimed she had imposter syndrome. And I have notes here I want to read. She said, I feel like I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. Like, what? Let me tell you another one that I'm going to unpack it a little bit. Albert Einstein, famous scientist, the theory of relativity is attributed to him, right? We think, wow, how magnanimous, what an amazing thought leader in our history. He said, I feel like I'm an involuntary swindler. What both of them were pointing to was, I created something of my own mind, of my own thought, And in that creation, other people are giving me so much attention and accolades, it feels uncomfortable because what if it's not true? What if they find out that I'm not all that? And then I feel embarrassed and exposed, like I was promoting myself to receive this this platform of importance when all I was doing was just doing my thing. I was just being me. In fact, get this part, it was easy for me to be me in that way. I'm not saying it's easy to write amazing poetry or to discover scientific theories, but they were just expressing themselves and didn't feel like what they did was necessarily hard or supremely special. And that is actually a big piece of imposter syndrome when we feel like we shouldn't deserve praise because we're just being normal to ourselves. A really important lesson in there. So know that that which seems easy for you is fair for you to claim as a victory or as a brilliant point of light. You doubt that you deserve high praise for it, but you do in fact have special capabilities, and it's good for you to see them as special. It's good for you to recognize them and embrace them. Just as you would have Maya Angelou feel proud of who she was, so should you be proud of who you are. Are you following? All right, gals. Now it takes me to my fifth point where I'm going to create a little, and I'm going to recreate an analogy for you that I kind of came up with when I was thinking about imposter syndrome one day. And it's just a little story called The Bluebird and the Goldfish. Stop me if you heard it already. This is the idea that, like, here I am in my living room, and imagine that there's this big fish bowl with a goldfish swimming around on it on the dining room table. And then there in the window is this beautiful bluebird flying outside that comes and lands on the windowsill. And these two animals regard each other. And the goldfish looks at the bluebird and goes, "What? Look at you, amazing creature. You were just lofted around in the air using nothing but feathers and wings on your body, and then you landed with feet. How did you do that?" And the bluebird looks at the goldfish and thinks, "Are you kidding me? Look at, you're swimming around in a bowl, breathing through gills in water. How do you do that?" Never mind that they're not actually speaking the same language, or that they can actually speak or have much gray matter at all to consider that they have imposter syndrome. We're just going with me here. But they look at each other and they see each other's brilliance in ways that are invisible to themselves. Do you get me? The bluebird doesn't see its blue, beautiful feathers and its ability to fly as unique or special. It's just birding. And the goldfish is like, "I am the simplest of all creatures. I have like one brain cell. How would anybody admire me? All I do is swim around and around and around and around." But meanwhile, it's this iridescent, beautiful gold color that can breathe air through gills. What? So is it the same with you? We disregard and diminish the things that are our inherent brilliance because they're just second nature to us. Really want you to hear that. You have easy ways of being brilliant in your life that you disregard or discount or think it's just something everybody else has, and it's not true. So I hope you like that story. Now I'm on to point number 6. This one, I like to say, is kind of like having a poster on the back of your door. This one is harvesting all the evidence of your impact to disprove that part of your brain that wants to think it's just cheap and easy for you to be who you are and everybody else is more important. This is literally a very fun game of going and collecting all of the treasures from your life, thank you cards, farewell cards from jobs that you've left, the praise that you've received from bosses or coworkers, the types of glowing acknowledgement you get in every single performance review, and collect that all like it's a treasure chest. Collect it all physically in one place. Literally have a file folder of your hard copy things and print out the things that are on the interwebs that people have said about you, so you have a file that you can go look to when you're really in a spin cycle, when you're really feeling challenged. Having a physical file that disproves your doubt can uplift your spirit immediately. And I want you to notice and accept the themes that radiate. Like, you can see all across your life, there have been things that people always say about you. Can you take a moment to actually do an inner inquiry? What are the things that people always say about you that are positive? What are compliments you always receive? And see that nobody's trying to run a game on you. Nobody's trying to it's not like everybody in your world have gotten together behind your back to try to feed you some lie. It's true for them. All of the things that you hear all the time that are positive that you might think, oh, it's nothing or it's not enough. It's true for other people. And when you start to see that that is your impact in the world, you might start to really witness it for yourself and adopt that as truth for you. I like that one. Do you like that? Okay. Meanwhile, while you do that, there's number 7, which is actually feeling into that. Like, when you can conjure up the somatic experience of pride, of feeling that recognition, of feeling that glow, of feeling that, like, that shiver of like, whoa, that was awesome. I am awesome. If you can conjure that feeling up of knowing your impact, if you can feel it in your body, is it like an opening in your chest or a tingling in your body? If you can actually juice that up a little bit and walk around that way, studies show it is sometimes the physical experience that sears in our new self-concept. So allowing that, like, not just breezing over the successes, but letting them reverberate in you and have that ripple out and just take it in. I have this one beautiful coach in my community that when somebody gives her high praise and she's amazing, she doesn't say, oh, thanks, or stop, or it's nothing, or no, 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 it's all you, girlfriend, like all those things that we do where we deflect. She does this. She goes, that means a lot to me. I receive that. I receive that. Thank you. And I take that in, which is such a gift to the giver. Like, nobody wants you to be like, oh, shush, that's nothing. It's like, no, they're trying to give you something. And it's like you're deflecting. Take it in and say, you know what? That means a lot to me. And I really receive that. Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel good. That makes me tingle. I'm happy with you. I'm happy with me when you say that about me. All right. So that's like feeling it. Get the feels going in your body. We're on to number 8. Talk to yourself like someone you love. If your girlfriend, if your sister, if your best buddy, if somebody you admire was speaking to themselves out loud the way your inner critic speaks to you, what would you do? Would you be like, yeah, you should probably really get hard on yourself? That critic, she's going to whip you into submission and make you better. You should probably, I would agree. No, you would come to rescue and say, are you kidding me? I see all the gorgeous brilliance in you. You're so what if you tripped? So what if your public presentation didn't go perfectly? So what if you didn't get the promotion this time? You're a beautiful, capable, wonderful human expanding in your life. I'm cheering you on. So is it for you with you. We need to speak about ourselves. We need to speak to ourselves like someone we love. All right, number 9. Do you remember when you learned in school what you should do if you caught on fire? When you are on fire with comparison, listen to me. When you are on fire, looking out, comparing and despairing and thinking, oh God, everyone has it so much better than me. Everyone is so much more fire than me. Everyone is so much more on their game than me. I am little, I am small, I am not as important. They are all smarter, more important, more authoritative, more influential. I feel tiny. Look at her, even physically, like look at her with the thin thighs, look at her with her youth, look at her, she's so beautifully confident on stage. All of that crap, that compare and despair, I want you to do the same thing as if you were on fire, to stop, drop, and roll. And I almost mean literally. This is the idea that you need to process, interrupt. You need to recognize like, oh, I'm caught in that spell of like instantly comparing myself to someone else and falling short and feeling horrible. And we need to process, interrupt. We need to literally like stand up and shake it off. Stand up, go outside, stand up, spin around. stand up, go get a drink of cold water. Like literally there's an energy that we kind of get caught in that's almost unconscious and automatic autopilot. And we need to go, oh, there it is. And I'm going to shake that off. It's not helpful. I'm going to crumple that up and throw it over my shoulder. So I want you to think about finding a way to interrupt the comparison pattern to stop that negative spiral. Okay, we're on to number 10. Now, think about how I told you you want to speak to yourself as if you're someone you love. Sometimes sharing your feelings of imposterism with someone who loves you can help you break out of that spell, out of that feeling of just feeling sort of lost and desperate and beating yourself up. If you're obsessing about something you think you did wrong, or if you're really in a tailspin about some mistake or failure that you did, or especially a speech that you gave where you're cringing afterwards. Sometimes this point number 10 is really helpful, to go to somebody who you trust, who supports you to no end, and seek some positive perspective. Like go get some fuel so that you can get back on track. Now, there's a key here. I want you to go outside your peer community for this. You don't necessarily tell your coworker or your peer or your boss, like, oh, I don't think that speech went very well. Because somebody right there close in your community might start problem solving with you, and that's not what you need. You don't need somebody to say, yeah, you know, if you want to improve that, I think that you could do this, this, and this, because that you're already beating yourself up enough. You don't need another log thrown on the comparison and despair fire that you're building in your own heart. You need to find somebody to help you find better perspective, not to accentuate a problem. Do you follow me on that one? So sometimes you can actually, I have friends that reach out to me and say, I don't need to be coached right now. I just need you to be my friend. Like, can you please remind me again? Remind me again. And I'm like, I'm so happy to remind you again. So you can actually have that inner alliance designed with some sisters that you know, it doesn't have to be a sister, but somebody that you know that can help lift your spirits and remind you of who you are. All right, gals, we're moving right along. We're now up to number 11. This one is how I like to see us next leveling. As you start rising up in your career, as you're aging in your life, you can mentor others. And when you are in mentorship mindset, you're not in I'm not good enough mindset. They can't exist together. So when you connect with someone else to rise someone else, your focus becomes helping others and being outside of your own drama. You can't be despairing when you're helping. And when you mentor someone, it has like this beautiful win-win-win where you're helping another person, you're getting yourself out of your own drama, and you're secretly subversively showing yourself how very accomplished you are. You know, they always say that when you're able to teach the lesson, that's when you know you really have it for yourself. So actually showing somebody else something that you know how to do helps you in so many ways. It helps you resurrect yourself from that yucky feeling, but it helps you actually go, huh, I actually do know a thing or two about this, and I love that. All right, we're on to the 12th. I want you to watch rigidity in your beliefs. Watch when you're kind of all or nothing, when you're doing that hyperbolic thing where you say things like, oh, it was an absolute failure, or I fell on my face, or it was awful, it was the worst thing ever, or even things like I have to or I should. The types of ways that we don't give relativity in our language, or give an absolute, that's really not true, but that's a way that we sometimes just kind of cough up our objections because we're so overwhelmed. We just say, oh, it was all the worst thing ever. You wouldn't even believe it. My boss hates me. It's like, your boss doesn't hate you. Your boss offered you one piece of critical feedback and you made it mean something else. So we want to just watch for that and realize, oh, that's a sign that my saboteur, my inner mean girl, is at work, sort of like like hyping things up in a negative way because she's trying to protect me. So watch for that. All right, gals, I have two bonus items for you on how you can blow up imposter syndrome, and they have to do with some images that I have on another screen. So this first one I really love. Let's see if I've got the tech know-how to be able to share this with you. This one is this image about imposter syndrome. And if somebody's live, give me a thumbs up if you can see it. It has two images, one on the left and one on the right. And it shows us on the left, thank you, Lynn, I know you see that, is this idea that imposter syndrome, what we believe to be true is that other people have all of this knowledge and that we just have this small little sliver subset of what people already know. And that they're so much more complete and that we have really nothing special or unique to offer that other people don't already have. That's sort of like the default. What I'm calling you forth to see is reality on the right side is it's like what you know is actually something worthy of being in the center. And all of the things that you know a little bit about, what other people know, other areas of expertise, other life experiences that you may have, some trainings and certifications, how your subject matter expertise weighs in. You might not be perfectly perfect in any of those, but you know a lot about a lot. And the image on the right is so much more true and more helpful for you to be able to own so that you can operate in a way that isn't always seeing what's missing, but is seeing what's here. Are you following? And what I love about this image and what I stumbled across once was it almost looks like a flower. And so this brings me to my last point that I want to share with you that when you're thinking about a flower, like if I were to challenge you to think about your favorite flower, I think immediately your mind would go into thinking about, is it a rose? Is it a tulip? Is it a bird of paradise? Is it a flowering shrub? Is it, what is the nature of a flower that you would think of? And what's the quality and the color and the smell of it? And how do you delight in it? And when's the last time you saw it, right? When you're thinking about a flower, you're not thinking about what that flower is not. When you're thinking about a flower, you're thinking about how glorious those qualities are of that flower. You're not thinking like a rose isn't a tulip, like I got my flowers here, or a daisy isn't lilac. You're just thinking about what it is, not what it is not, which is so important. This is like the elementary thing about imposter syndrome is we constantly are beating ourselves up for what we think we are not, rather than seeing what we are. So I want to challenge you maybe to actually like ground into the image of your favorite flower and let that be encouraging for you, like a little emblem for you to see what you are, not what you are not. And then this is the final image that I found that I thought was so lovely. And the quote says, "A flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms." That's what flowers do. A flower is just supposed to be it. And so it is with you, my lady. So I hope some of these gave you some encouragement, gave you some reframes, gave you some empowering ways to think about how you already are everything that you need to be. And shortly, I'm going to open it up for open coaching, but I want to tell you what happens next. This is the end of our training, and we have only just begun. This has been what I like to call a one-way broadcast over 3 days of me sharing key concepts in a way that I think are actionable and resonant that you can start working on today. But we both know that true transformation takes time and that real thought reframes and dealing with our limiting beliefs and up-leveling our skills isn't something that's a one and done thing. And in fact, if you could just listen to a broadcast like this or a podcast or read a self-help book, you would not have imposter syndrome. It takes some time and focused energy and integrating the lessons personally for you to be able to truly uplevel your inner leadership skills. And that's what I'm all about. That's what I do. I have a beautiful program that I am obsessed with called Completely Confident Leadership. That is the manifestation of my 30 plus years hiring, training, mentoring, managing, coaching people in leadership positions, helping them with every single hurdle I see them stumble across. Often when people come to me, they think what they need is a certain skill so that they feel more confident. And in some ways that's true. But what my program does is start at the beginning, at the foundational level of dealing with things like our inner critic, our imposter syndrome, some of our limiting self-beliefs, the ways that we're holding ourselves back that are sometimes unconscious to us so that we can really be more effective. So when I say completely confident leadership, if you're thinking, huh? How is anybody ever completely confident? What I'm talking about are the two distinct halves of leading. The first is self-awareness and self-management, and then the outside social relationship and social management. Both of those halves together make a complete whole. That's what I'm talking about my program, Completely Confident Leadership. You can see it all at www.joeleader.com group program. It's my group coaching program. It lasts 5 months, and I'm going to take you a little bit of time now, take a little time to describe it, and then we're going to coach live. Okay, so what happens when you join this program is you immediately get access to my vault of trainings, which are short tidbits that teach you with exercises that you can implement week by week by week by week so that you start to see a shift in how you are behaving and being and thinking and feeling so that you start to feel more confident and more self-assured and more easy in your own skin and more sure of how you're living your life attuned to your values, more on par, more on track, more facing towards your own North Star. We do all of this in the very beginning of the program with a signature 5-step process that I take all my clients through. And then we start layering on the lessons of dealing with things that are challenging for us in the external world. So that's what's in my core curriculum, and you get lifetime access. Then we meet once a week at the set time for us to come together in a small huddle and coach on a concept per week where you can come in and say, okay, I listened to the lesson. This is the part I get. This is the part I'm struggling with. Or this is what I tried new and this is how it worked for me. And this is what I'm still challenged by. That's when we get the rubber to meet the road and we start actioning on our improvement, when we get integrating lessons for us personally. It's the second piece is our group calls. The third piece is because I know life happens in between the weekly calls. I have found this wonderful app that was popular in the 90s. It's called Voxer, and it's a walkie-talkie free on your phone that all my clients have. And they're able to voice and text message me during the 5-month course to ask for feedback, to have a sounding board, to get real-time coaching, to make good on an accountability challenge, or just have somebody to share a win with. I'm like your coach sister, a coach in your pocket that you can have. It's incredibly impactful, I find. That's why I've added it, because I know that those are the moments that we stumble across in our daily lives when we really need coaching, that we can start implementing new lessons. So that's the third part. The first is the curriculum. Second is the weekly coaching. The third is the Voxer walkie-talkie access. And then there's a ton of bonuses. When you enroll in Completely Confident Leadership before May 1st, the end of this month, I'm offering 2 huge bonuses. You ready? One is this complete leadership assessment that I am administering for each participant to help you see your leadership skill set displayed in a pictogram that shows you where your easy brilliance is and where you're holding yourself back. It's like an imposter syndrome magnifier. It shows you clearly what you're not utilizing in terms of your strengths and where you're selling yourself short. Then I coach you on that throughout the next 5 months. just having this leadership assessment is worth so much because it shows you to you in a powerful way. I use it with gals who are going to interview and are trying to explain who they are and what they do. I use this for gals who are up leveling and are being promoted. It's for everyone. So that's an exciting bonus. And then the other thing is, at the very beginning of our 3 days together, I gave a public speaking demonstration. Inside this cohort, I offer public speaking practice where you can actually have speaking experience, where you can practice in a safe environment to uplevel this key skill that terrifies most, but is so portable and so powerful when you learn how to speak more effectively. And this means in all venues, interpersonally, conversationally, at a reception, and standing at a podium with a darkened audience with everybody looking at you and everything in between. So speaking skills is another real special bonus that's inside Completely Confident Leadership. Okay, so go to www.joeleader.com and see the group coaching program. You can see all the details there. I have 2 things I'm going to call you to do. You have one choice, you have 2 choices you can make. You can sign up right away because it's flippin' awesome. And if any of what I've taught you these past 3 days resonate for you, you know this is a fit. You know this is the support and training and coaching that you long for to up level in your life. You can go for it. Or you can connect with me live and have a consult with me where we can talk about what's going on for you and feel out what you think you need. And if you have hesitations about joining, we can discuss it. I am never interested in convincing anybody to join. Sometimes gals are timid to invest in themselves or worry that maybe it's not the right time or that they're not as good as the other women in the program. Imposter syndrome. And we can talk about that. But more than anything, I want you to see that this is for you. If you've come with me this far and it feels like it's on track and it resonates for you and you feel seen, then it means that you would gain a lot from doing this deeper dive with me and actually breaking this stuff down for yourself so that you own it inside your bones. That's what we want. All right, gals. So as we come to close, I want to call you forth. Go to my website, joeleader.com, and find group coaching or my Connect with Me booking link so that we can actually meet live on a call and I can help you start working on your inner leadership and your effective leadership with others today. That's what I have for you. Go well.